Today I'll be replacing an AMG Prowler Radon fan. So the first thing you want to do is shut off electricity to your unit and shut off the circuit breaker that powers the unit as well. And then next go ahead and remove the 4 screws that hold this top part on. So first thing you want to do here is looking at these electrical connectors is if you flip open these orange levers on the right hand side of each connector and then pull out the electrical line that goes into it. So you see your bare copper, which is your ground, that's paired up with a green and yellow electrical cable. Looking at the next connector, we have a white paired up with blue. So again, open up this one on the right. And the last connector we got, this is your hotline. So again, for this one to the right, open it up. And that's your black line there. So you'll see these are the 3 electrical connectors or electrical copper lines that should be coming from your electrical supply. So just put those off to the side, and then these go with your old box, or if you're installing a new unit, that's what comes in your box. So then at this point, we're gonna separate this from the old Radon fan. That way we can go about removing it. And you may have to get this started with a pair of pliers, and then it should be pretty easy to loosen by hand. So while I had it apart, I went ahead and replaced this rubber O-ring. This one in my hand is only around 5.5 years old, and you can see how chewed up it was from the elements from being outdoors. So I'll put the exact dimensions in the description, but inner dimension was 1 inch and it was 1/8 inch thick. So I lubricated it with a little silicone grease, and I thought it'd be a good time to replace before I reconnect everything. Next step is to loosen the clamps that hold on the Fernco fitting on both the top and the bottom. So 4 total. So with these metal fittings or clamps loosened here, the best way I can describe what to do next is to slide these Fernco fittings up on the top pipe and to slide it down on the bottom one. And it may help if you need to insert a flathead screwdriver here, pry it down a little bit, and then slide this fitting down as far as you can get it, and that'll free up some space in order to remove the fan itself. So once you make some space, find it easiest to tilt the fan out from the top, and then it is a little bit heavy, so make sure that you're supporting it with 2 hands, and go ahead and pull it out. It's that easy. I noticed there's some water when I loosened this lower Fernco fitting. Then I can see a little bit of water accumulated in there. So I'm not too sure if there should be any way or anything to mitigate water getting inside that, but I'll worry about that in the future. So what I recommend is before you go ahead and insert your new fan is to take some of that silicone lubricant and put it around the inside of the Fernco fitting to make it a little bit easier to slide it on and off in the future. So just clean it up and rub it around the inside of it. So with your Fernco fittings lubricated, go ahead and make sure you mount the new fan in the direction that the old one was mounted, and place your bottom portion of the fan in first. You may have to move the top fitting out of your way just a little bit. And then slide your ferncoes back into place, but don't worry about tightening these clamps until we do up the electrical connectors. All right, so remaking these electrical connectors is super simple. First thing to do is, if you're keeping your metal lock washer here for safekeeping, make sure you remove that. Put that on the side, and then take your 3 electrical wires and slide those back in to the new fan, making sure they're out of the way of the other wires. So pull them up. You may have to reorientate your fan a little bit and make sure that your new rubber O-ring is up against it. And then go ahead and slide that metal washer back over those 3 wires there. You don't have to worry about doing all that up just yet. So first thing to do is reconnect these in the reverse order that we took them apart. So that should be pretty easy to remember. It was the bare wire, which is your ground. That's going to be partnered with this yellow and green connector here. So slide that into the hole. Make sure that it's in there all the way, that it's fully in position. And then go ahead and close that orange lever. And make sure that it's fully seated and locked into place. So next up is going to be the white neutral wire, and that one is partnered with this blue wire. So go ahead, make sure that's fully inserted. Perfect. And then close that orange lever all the way. And the last one is going to be this black wire. Go ahead, just like the other ones, get that fully inserted. All right, and that's locked down. Double check them. Good. This black cylinder, make sure that is in the vertical position there. That's how it came when it was professionally installed, so I'm going to leave it like that. And the last thing to do is go ahead and start spinning that metal lock washer down. Start it by hand, and if you want to snug it with the wrench at the very end, go for it, but righty tighty, spin that on. All right. So I will snug that with the wrench, but first I'm going to get these wires out of the way a little bit. And I'll snug that guy down real quick, and then I'll tuck these wires away before I put back on the cap. All right, so it's the 4 screws that hold the cap together. And they don't have to be cranked down. You just want to make sure that you tighten them so that it's going to create a weatherproof seal. So after you tighten these 4 down, then we're going to move on to retightening the fernco fittings. And make sure that you position these clamps somewhere that is going to be easily accessible next time you have to loosen it, so whatever makes sense for your exact location. and just make sure that those fittings are slid nice and firmly up and snug down to the fan itself. So make sure you have a good position before you retighten them. And then the last thing to do will be turn power back on at the breaker and then at your emergency shutoff. And our first fan lasted just over 5 years, so hoping to get a little bit more life from this one. And again, this is the AMG Prowler.